I'm Antja Kennedy, and I'm going to speak about fascia fundamentals. So I have been working with the Laban-Bartenieff work for many years, and the one thing that's always interesting for me is to find new application areas. So besides being a dancer, a choreographer, a dance teacher, I've also done different things. For example, also worked in the aqua fitness with this work. But what I'm going to introduce you today is the fascia work that I have been developing over the last 3 to 5 years. And I've been introduced to many different ways of looking and working with the fascia, and my inroad is through Bartenieff Fundamentals and Laban movement studies. Rudolf Laban, the one place where we can build a bridge to fascia is through the icosahedron. The icosahedron being one of the Platonic solids which Laban used as a model for spatial orientation. Now, the fascia people are using that model in a similar but different sense. So their way of looking at it is through the tensegrity of the model. And this usually came from Buckminster Fuller. And interestingly enough, Irmgard Bartenieff also knew about Buckminster Fuller's ideas. So there was a lot of cross-referencing here. And the interesting thing about the tensegrity model really is that you have these strips here in the icosahedron that are not all of the different peripheral connections that you could have. In other words, there are some that are not connected, but what happens is that the moment that you have this and you squeeze it, it will come back. And that is the real important thing about the tensegrity model, that it is just like fascia. When you squeeze into a certain point, like for example in your hand, it will come back, fortunately. All right, so in other words, there is a bridge right there. Otherwise, I would say there are very many loose bridges, but not very clear ones. Irmgard Bartenieff, who was a Laban student, but also a dancer and massage therapist, dance therapist in her own right, she also then did another, you could say, further education outside of her normal therapy in Germany in the 50s in Bindegewebsmassage, which would be translated to connective tissue massage or therapy. And the interesting thing was that she actually, in her practice, with her individual clients as well as in her groups, would sometimes go through the fascia and just have people understand that there are more to the connections than only the words. So she used her hands a lot, and this is something that then developed into what we call hands-on. Now, just briefly, the goals of fundamentals are many-fold, but one of them is especially the connections within the body, and of course, to perceive and train these effective and physically connected movements that then become very efficient. So that's the aim of fundamentals. And if you look at fascia, there is here some facts about fascia, but the most important thing for us is that it is everywhere in the body, okay? And I will now also talk about the different bridges between the fascia work and the Laban work as I see it today. This is still a work in progress. Okay. So the principle of connectivity is very fundamental because, of course, if you change in one part of the body something, others will reverberate and change as well. And in the fascia, it is exactly the same. So in the subcutaneous fascia, which is right under the skin, if you change one part, if you just do this here, it will actually change more than what you maybe even feel, because everything is tied together. Okay, so what we are now going to do, I'm going to introduce my two helpers here, Charlotte and Anita. Thank you for being with us today. And they are going to do some of the Bartenieff Fundamentals and or the fascia work. So when we are standing, we only really have the contact through very little of the foot, actually, not even the whole foot. So in other words, really have a sense of your grounding. In fundamentals, we do a lot of different things of different surfaces, going through different parts of the foot. This would be more body-oriented. Then we could do a little bit more with effort, so we're doing a little bit of more like stamping, for example, or maybe very, very light touch, you know, so just very different dynamics going through that. And that will help us also in our grounding, as well as the fact that we just yield into the floor. Just take a moment to kind of just let everything yield into the floor. Yeah, there you go. Right. Now, I'm going to give you a very soft ball, and we're going to do what lots of different fascia people do in different ways. We're just going to take the ball under our foot at this point, and we're going to do a little lateral weight shift, we would call this. And since it's a soft ball, we can really squish it with all of our weight. So what we're doing is we're doing a lateral weight shift into a yield into different pressure points. Yeah, we can talk about which ones we're doing, but at the moment we'll just do whatever, just change around from different parts of the foot. And don't forget to go all the way to the heel, which is an important aspect for the heel sit bone connection. So really go into that heel and really have a sense of your heel sit bone connection the moment you do that. Okay. Now we could do this for a long time, but we're just going to do it right now for very short, and just come off and just feel the difference between the 2 feet, the 2 legs, maybe even the 2 body halves. Yeah. Okay. Some people actually, what happens is that their one shoulder even shows that it goes whoop all the way down. You know, it's sometimes happens. Other side, want it also? Yes. Okay, so do more or less the same what you did, whatever you did, you know, wherever you started and kept going. Now, you can use hard balls to do this, but then you can't do really so much yielding. So in other words, this is very important for me, that I find all the soft balls and the soft rollers are much nicer to work with than the hard balls and the hard rollers. But, you know, what do we say? We respect uniqueness. So for other people, it can be different. I just like it that way. Yes, and then go into and out of your heel at the end. Really have a sense of that heel sit bone connection. Really, wow, find that for yourself. Breathe into it, yield into it. Now, the one thing I forgot to say, of course, you always do your better side first, but usually you intuitively do that. Okay. Now come back off the ball, and probably that second side will feel slightly different to the first, even though the first did have it, but it will equal itself out in a little bit. Okay. And again, just kind of feel what did that do to your body half, and especially also your grounding of the body half.
with the feet on the ball. I find it always so fascinating because I've done it several times with different balls, like squishy and more hard, but every time I step off the ball, I feel like there's less contact of my foot with the ground, but I feel more grounded and more stable. And this always, in a way it feels like a paradox, but that's always what I experience, and it's a really nice feeling. Yeah, that's kind of my two things.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
How about you, Anita?
Yeah, well, whenever I'm working with my fascia and really using push or grounding or rolling or using the rolls or the balls, I always feel that I'm growing three-dimensionally and I feel softness. And especially with the ball, I felt that like I have like a huge foot afterwards because it's like massaged out and my grounding is like just like getting back to me, and it's crazy and beautiful, and I can also feel my center afterwards, how I connect my lower Y to the up, to end of the skull. And it's the same thing when we are working on the roll, that like everything is so soft and just like growing and feels very nice and connected. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Yes, great. Well, I must say, it's like I kind of more or less stumbled into this, and I'm just so happy that I did. All these different workshops and all this different exploration of the fascia, because I really feel for myself it really has helped me stay very healthy in my body. It's been like that in my whole body, and I feel actually at this point somehow more connected and with more ease in movement than I felt when I was 20. And that really I attribute to the fascia work. So it is really a fountain of youth for me. Thank you.